Hi there. We're thrilled to announce that Martech bot has been upgraded to ChatGPT 4.0 Mini, making it nearly twice as fast as the last 3.5 turbo model. Want to give it a go and feel the speed? Go to martech.org/martechbot.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to a live session at Martech from New York and Florida. It's the 2024 Martech Replacement Survey. I'm Kim Davis, Martech Editor-at-Large, and I'm joined by a guest from an iconic brand, Stanley Black & Decker. Welcome, Anna Moral. And perhaps you have quite the job title, so perhaps in your own words, just tell the audience a bit about what your role at Stanley Black & Decker is.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me here, Kim. Very excited about the findings of the survey. And about my role at Stanley Black & Decker, I work with the Martech that has been put in place in order to collect and activate data on end users. So the people that actually go to our distributors and retailers and buy our tools.
Well, that's why we're so pleased to have you here, because you're really at the coalface, as it were, with a Martech stack, a real live Martech stack. Let me just set a bit of the background. We had almost 500 initial respondents to the survey. 65% of them had replaced a Martech solution in the past year, and the survey results, therefore, are based on their answers. There's a lot more in the survey than Anna and I will get to today, but you'll find a link in the Dig Deeper section of your console where you can download it. And just to prove we're live, and I'm not making it up, we welcome questions. You'll see somewhere where you can input questions, and we'll be happy to get to as many as we can. Well, let's dive in. We've got a lot to get through. The very first question: has your company replaced a Martech application in the last year? And as I said, we have about, 64% said yes. Now, given, as you know firsthand, Anna, the upheaval and expense involved in replacing a solution, does it surprise you that people are still switching things out?
Actually, I think that what the survey is showing here is that companies are still very much dependent or involved with the technology behind marketing efforts and behind marketing processes. So even though, yes, there's a cost and there's a process involved with it, companies are still trying to optimize that stack as we go.
Understandable. Getting down to actual cases, I think it's something like the fourth year in succession, the most replaced solution is marketing automation. And that always leaves me a little surprised, because marketing automation, it's a bit like rebuilding the plane while you're flying. It must be a tremendous challenge to replace an established marketing automation solution without shutting down the business for a few weeks. Anna, can you talk about your experiences with this?
Yes, that can be challenging, as you mentioned, Kim. But I think that here the companies are trying to make the most with what they have, the teams that they have, and maybe trying to increase output of those same teams or maintain output with smaller teams. And that's where the marketing automation piece can really play. And if I may also add, the other platforms here, such as CRM and CMS, can also have marketing automation features embedded into them. So the marketing automation may be even going beyond the marketing automation platforms themselves. And yes, I agree with you that it may be very challenging, but depending on the marketing automation platform, it can also be added to the stack in order to, in fact, help with the process or expedite a process or add agility, right? Because you can get some of the more operational or repetitive activities and then start by automating those, which may help you implement or change the platform while you're like driving the car, while you were also building it, as you mentioned. So that's how I see this working here, according to my experience.
And you make a very good point. Of course, for the purpose of the survey, we have to list these various solutions as if there's no overlap. But somebody who's working with a big suite with several parts to it, and they replace it, they might find it difficult to say, did we replace marketing automation or CRM? Because we replaced a bit of everything.
Exactly.
So this, I think, is a well-established trend. People aren't going back from commercial solutions to homegrown solutions. I've seen a few stories this year where companies are putting together their own AI solution or AI stack, but I think that's really large enterprises where they've got teams of knowledgeable people to do it. So I think, and unless you disagree with me, no surprises here that people are either going from homegrown to commercial, or most commonly from commercial to another commercial solution.
Exactly, especially because you have such a wealth of platforms to choose from, right? That most likely you will find the type of support you need in the market instead of having to develop it. Of course, some companies have very specific use cases and they may require a certain level of customization, right? That may require them to go homegrown or to add upon a commercial platform. But I think that now there are many, many options that can help many companies across a number of different use cases.
Makes sense. Now, why did you replace the commercial application? Because that was by far the majority. And as we'll see, things get a little complex here, but we'll take you through it step by step. Why did you replace it? Better features wins. People are looking for better features from the solution from the new solution than from their current solution. And second place, reduce the cost. And then they also talk about integration. There are clearly other factors. Anna, if you were going out looking to replace one of the pieces in your stack, how does that balance out for you, features against cost?
That's a very good point. Very good point. So I think that it's a balance. I think that companies are trying to find a balance here, right? Between what they need and what they can pay or are willing to pay. So here is really, from what I can see and according to my own experience, is really finding that balance, right? So which features do I really need? I want to make sure that I pay for the features I need, but I don't necessarily pay for the features I don't need. Right? So it's really about making sure that you go through the features and then match that with the cost and see how that best applies to your company. And again, the use cases you are trying to solve or improve, and the marketing processes you are also trying to improve by leveraging the stack.
And you must surely take a kind of cross-stack view of this, because
absolutely,
so easy. We know people end up with two marketing solutions, separate solutions, but they have a number of features in common. And you perhaps didn't need to buy that more expensive one because you could already do A, B, and C with other parts of your stack. You've got to take a holistic approach, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly the point. You have to have a very systemic view of the Martech so that, yes, you can also check what is the overlap of the features. And as you mentioned yourself, maybe you want a feature that is more specialized and you don't need to go and buy a very established platform that offers even more. Maybe you can add a more specialized platform that offers what you need on top of what you have, right? So that's also another way of making sure that you're taking into consideration the whole stack, but you are also bringing the features that you need at the cost that you can pay or willing to pay for them.
Yeah, I guess a point solution might be both exactly what you need and less expensive than a whole platform, which happens to have that solution among others.
Exactly.
Okay. So, how long was the legacy system you're replacing used for? And I like this graph jumped out at me as almost a bell curve. People are very much focused in the middle of the range of choices here. So 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years. And interesting, people have had something in place for more than 10 years and they're not replacing it. I guess they must be happy with it.
Exactly. Or the platform already has the features, or maybe it updated its features. So it has really adapted to the times as well.
And a few people replacing something they've had for less than a year. That sounds like a bad experience. Have you ever had that happen to you?
I would say yes. In some cases, in my experience, there was a mismatch between what we were looking for the feature and the way that that feature could be really leveraged inside the company, right? So at the end, there was a mismatch between the feature and the marketing process, unfortunately, right? And in the case of some B2B companies, especially in tech, where marketing is being tasked with some of the sales qualifying leads processes. In those cases, the same can happen with the mismatch between the platform and the sales process as well, or the sales and marketing process. And usually when that happens, it's when you see people jumping from one platform to the other. At least in my experience, it's usually on that mismatch.
Well, you introduced another very important point here. We already talked about the importance of taking a view across your whole stack, but you're referring to processes. And I know you firmly believe that you can't just look at the technology you've got. You have to look at it in the context of marketing processes and, as you just said, maybe sales processes as well. That's crucial to these decisions, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And I think this is very much overlooked because, especially on the marketing side, on the business stakeholder side, there is this expectation that the technology itself will solve, right? If I have another like automation feature, that will take care of it. But actually, it will only take care of it if you have someone to think through it, to match that with the teams you have in place. Right? And how is it that that feature, that automation can help those teams achieve more or scale their work or maintain their output? Again, if the match is not there, you will have a platform that is sitting unused or barely used or just little used, instead of really using the platform to its fullest and seeing that platform really make a change, really bring benefits to how you operate. So I believe that Martech has a lot of benefits, not only for the communication with the client or with the customer or to generate leads, but also to empower marketing teams and to ensure that we can remove some of the operational tasks in the best way possible so that we can all be more involved in more strategic work, in analyzing data, in doing the fun work that marketers prefer and like to do.
Yeah. And we know Martech redundancy is a real phenomenon. There are tools out there which are just lying around. And I can remember from my own experience, and this wasn't in marketing, but being presented with this very elaborate system to securely review documents. And it was so difficult to get in and out of the system. People just printed the documents and left them lying around. So well-laid plans can go amiss.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to ask first for your reaction to this, Anna, because I have a strong reaction, but I'll save that up and let you take a look first. Who in your organization champions these replacements?
Yes, because here we're talking about marketing technology. So I think it's expected that marketing management and marketing operations will be highly involved. But I think it's also interesting to see here the executive management, right? Is this the marketing executive management or overall executive management, and they're seeing even like VPs or stakeholders that are outside marketing, are they also seeing the benefits of the technology when it comes to their operation or the way they interact with marketing activities or marketing teams?
Yeah, I can respond to that because it relates to my own comment, which is you see on this chart a relatively small role played by IT, but you always have to bear in mind that it's unlikely that pure IT professionals are going to be finding our survey and taking it. So there may be some replacements going on out there, and IT would say, what do you mean we weren't involved? We were very much involved. And that
True.
relates to your other point, executive management. I'm going to assume that's primarily marketing executive management, because again, otherwise, how did they come across our survey? So I think we can say that although I take the results at face value, marketers are telling you how key they are to the marketing replacement process.
Exactly. That's a good point. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. What factors? Now, this is where I think there's a little bit of complication. Earlier, we looked at what was leading you to replace a solution, and better features came out ahead of cost. In this chart, we see cost leading the way. And I must say that on previous years, that's a significant increase. Cost was usually lower down the list, so there's something going on there. But the qualification is that in this chart, unlike the other one, we've actually broken down features, ability to measure ROI, compliance, security, improved customer experience. Perhaps if you lumped all those together in one choice, it might still beat cost. But cost is more in people's minds these days, isn't it, Anna?
Yes, which I think also it reflects like how that this search for the automation, right? Or the search for other platforms that may help there control cost while also delivering the necessary features, which I think reflects, right, the time we're in versus previous years.
And is that, just relating it to recent history, there was obviously a huge move into the digital space during the pandemic. Has concerns about the cost of maintaining a broad digital presence, has that grown over the last couple of years, would you say?
Yes, I think so. And when we see this survey and we see that the ability to actively measure ROI is also very high up, right? So I think there's a correlation there. So are we able to show return over investment? Yes, no, right? I think that controlling cost is also a way to
Yeah.
maybe be more active on showing the return over investment. And I also think it's interesting here because I wonder how is it that a platform can really offer the ability to actively measure return over investment as a feature, because it may depend, right? It may depend on the company, the industry. For instance, Stanley Black & Decker does not really sell directly, right? We sell through distributors and retailers, and we don't necessarily get that sell out. So for us, how is it that we would measure return over investment if we have to take into consideration the sell out to see the return over investment for the platform? It's going to be much harder for us to realize that feature, right? So we may use other return over investments for measure depending on how we use it according to our business model, if that makes sense. And that's what I have seen for other companies as well.
It does, and you make a very good point, because we're surveying a whole bunch of different kinds of companies here, and they might well have different needs, different constraints, and as you say, different challenges to face.
Exactly. So I think they go hand in hand. Let's measure and return over investment, and let's control cost. Let's try to leverage those two.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, how many months was the replacement under consideration before it was approved? This reflects the relative length of the sales cycle in the software space. And personally, I was surprised it wasn't a little longer. I was surprised there weren't more 6 to 12 months here. But what strikes you as typical for considering some significant replacement in your stack?
I think it also depends on the size of the company and how many teams are involved. And maybe what we are seeing here is, again, we didn't necessarily have a lot of IT stakeholders from the IT team answering the survey. So we may be seeing here from the marketer perspective, like, oh, I had access to this tool and I tried it, I tested it, and for me, it's good to go. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be in the stack, right? It may be that it was approved by the marketer and now it goes into IT so that it is fully integrated to the stack. So here we may be seeing one piece of the approval and not the entire process of approval as well.
Understood. And makes me want to ask another question, maybe in next year's survey. If that's how long it took to consider the new application, how long did it take to implement it? Because I think we see some interesting results there as well.
Exactly.
Okay, has the total number of apps in your stack increased or decreased in the past year? And I think we're seeing increases, but modest increases on balance here.
Exactly. But still increasing, right? So even though there's overlap and there's a concern with return over investment and cost, I think that, again, companies are still finding value in going after platforms that can be added to the stack and they can bring the features that they need or solve for marketing automation at this point. So there's still room for growth if it's the right growth, what they're looking for here.
And it's not many people increased by more than 6 applications, 6 or more. That would be quite a headache for most teams, I would think.
Exactly. If you are replacing 6, you are kind of replacing the stacks. Like, let's redo the stack.
And actually, something which we don't touch on in the survey, but which I see quite often is, in the case of a merger, you pretty much end up with 2 stacks and you have to decide which one you're going to use, or maybe pick the best parts from both of them. So that's another kind of challenge.
Exactly.
So this is something which has changed somewhat over the years, from my memory at least. Did you hire new people in conjunction with the replacement? I think a few years ago there was a tendency, if you're bringing in a certain well-known platform, to go and pick some people who are experienced with it. But what we've seen, I really think, post the pandemic, is stick with the existing staff. And you see huge majority here retraining existing staff. I know you've got some thoughts on the reasons for doing that, Anna.
Yeah. So again, I think this goes well with the marketing automation piece of it, right? So maybe what companies are trying to do is the most with what they have. So instead of just like bringing a new platform and having to bring people from the outside and doing, it's like, no, let's bring platforms that we can add to the stack that bring the feature, again, that we need. And then we can train our staff to use it, right? We can train our staff to see this platform integrated into the stack and how it can help us. So I think that goes hand in hand with the previous slide about going after marketing automation for the most part.
It's the staff you already have, they probably have a deeper or more intuitive understanding of your business goals, the outcomes you desire,
the processes, for sure.
Yeah, rather than having a such and such a platform expert who's new to your business.
Absolutely.
Okay. Before we go on to the last slide, a reminder, we've got some questions coming in, but this would be a good time to type something in if there's something we could address. But yeah, this last slide is really a footnote. It's just to give you some idea about the kinds of businesses responding to the survey. Most of them are clearly B2B, but we do have B2C and hybrid businesses quite well represented as well. And if you download the survey, you'll see a lot of other information about the roles of the people who are responding, where they're responding from, all that kind of thing. So I do recommend a download. Okay, are you ready for some questions, Anna?
Yes.
Let me just click over to the right place. Okay. There's a question about marketing automation platforms. Could it be new leadership coming in with a preferred marketing automation platforms?
Yes.
Or internal, this is an involved question, or internal teams are not championing the existing marketing automation platform so that leadership believes it's effective? I'll pause there. There's a lot more. Any thoughts on that?
Wow. That's an amazing question, by the way. So thank you, whomever submitted. Awesome. So I think we have the two scenarios, right? The both are very common. So you do have the new leadership that comes and kind of rips and replaces the Martech or the marketing automation tool, right? Which may be a mistake, because sometimes the experience, the very positive experience that you had with the platform in a company, it was because at that company, the platform was very well meshed with the processes, and you had the champions and you had people trained, and all of a sudden you had this super positive experience as a stakeholder, business stakeholder, and then you move companies and are like, oh, let me just bring over the platform that I use. But then again, if you are not in the details, and you don't have people to champion it, or if you don't understand what the platform that you are trying to replace did and how that platform matched with or mismatched with the existing marketing processes, then just bringing something else because you had a good experience somewhere else will not work. Conversely, right? The teams should be able to, ideally, should be able to go and talk to this business stakeholder and show how the platform they are using really matches, right? If they have a strong use case, like, okay, this platform is helping us do more with less people or to scale better, right? Or we already have people trained here and this platform is super flexible so that if we need more features, we can just plug them into the existing platform. So having those type of conversations with the stakeholders is also very important because they may not be in the detail. They may not be in the day-to-day. They may not have that view. So it's important that we help them with that view, right? And we help them assess how whatever platform that is being considered or replaced or existing one matches with the marketing processes and the customer communication, right? So that we can achieve the business goals that the company has. I hope this helps.
Grateful for you giving really actionable advice there. That's really helpful. And there's actually another very good point made in the context of the same question, but it's slightly separate. And I don't think this is just about marketing automation, but our audience member points out that growth could be important here. You might move from a smaller marketing automation platform or a smaller application of some other kind to a more powerful one because your company is growing. That could be a simple explanation for a replacement.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if that's the case, yes, it is based on the business case, right? And it's very well matched with the company growth or the company business goals. So yes, this could absolutely be the case. And in this case, even better, right? If the company is growing and now there are more use cases to justify a more robust platform, awesome, right? So that may be the case. Or it may be that they had other platforms that were robust, like a CMS, and then they added upon other specific platforms to help those very established platforms, right? So that can also be the case here, I believe. It can go both ways.
Okay. And here's another quite detailed question. I'll run through it, see what we can, how we can respond. It's great to retain existing employees and retrain them, but given that cost was a large factor in the replacement, how many leaders believe that the cost is too high for what they get, and they really don't have a dedicated team member administrating the tech? And this audience member says this can be a huge problem with systems like ABM, and he mentioned some of the main ABM platforms. They need a lot of hands-on attention, more than most companies can give resources for.
Mhm.
Retraining won't fix that. So maybe again, it's a question
Yeah,
of what you're replacing.
exactly. And ownership of the stack. Right. So I think that here ownership as well. So a lot of companies, they don't have ownership. Like they have, okay, IT takes care of it from a technical standpoint, of course, but then the use cases come from business, like the marketers, but there's not one owner. There's not someone who's overseeing everything and having that systemic view along with the marketing processes. And that's where I totally get this comment and I agree with it. Because in these cases, even if you retrain people, then the effect or the benefits of the new platform will be lost, or even the existing platform will be lost. We won't realize the return over investment as much if we don't have really someone that can have that view and then help retrain or reskill the teams as well. Because sometimes like training and reskilling is just sending a link and say, okay, you go and you take a look at this video and go use the platform, right? And that's not really not necessarily, I should say, the way to go. It may help in some cases, yes, of course, but in other cases, teams may also need leadership on how to use it or how to best implement or how to best select. And for that, I think having an owner, someone with that systemic view really helps.
And of course, some vendors will give some support, some training. There are vendors
Yes.
with online courses to take. And again, it's case by case, seeing just how much support a particular vendor will offer you.
Oh, absolutely. And vendors have amazing solutions. Sometimes they have like trails and academies, and they're great, right? But in a lot of cases, this is thrown on top of the marketer or whomever is supposed to use the platform on top of everything else, right? And it's like, go figure it out, start using, and there's no other direction. So even with the wealth of information that a vendor can offer, it may still be hard for the person using the platform to really absorb that knowledge, bring that knowledge on top of everything else they're doing, and realizing the value for the platform just by themselves. That's what I mean.
Okay. Next question I've got here. I think I have an answer to it, but I'll throw it to you first, Anna. Somebody's focused on the other end of the chart. We've been talking about marketing automation being very frequently replaced, but what isn't getting replaced? Not many people replaced their digital experience platforms. Why do you think that is?
That's a very good point. I think that, what are we calling the digital experience platforms here? Because it may be the CMS, right? Like taking care of digital platforms, or it may be customer experience. So I agree. I agree that if we just change one side of it, so let's say we change the marketing automation, but then the experience with customer services faulty, or the experience in digital platforms such as a website or an app is faulty or is subpar, right? Then yes, we may not again see the full value of the marketing automation being realized. Because yes, we can automate the operations, so we can help on the marketing process side, but we may not realize the benefits or have the effect that we want when it comes to the customer side of it or the client side of it and their experience.
Yeah, I think we're also seeing a slight blurring of the categories here because, as you said, there's CMSs on the list. And I bet a lot of people refer to their digital experience platform as their CMS and possibly vice versa. But my other theory here is that although it's certainly the case that B2B businesses do invest in digital experience platforms, and more so today than they used to, nonetheless, I think you typically find that combination of e-commerce, CMS recommendation engines being used by B2C companies. And as we know, somewhat fewer of them took our survey than B2B companies. That's just my theory.
That's a very good point. It's a very good point.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's see what else we've got. Yeah, I can answer this one. Where are the respondents to the survey based? The overwhelming majority, no surprise, North America. I think that's around 67% from memory. And then we have decent small samples from the UK and from India. and others
Nice.
are pretty much vanishingly small. But I guess no surprises there. That's where I'd expect them to be coming from.
Nice. Good to know it's an international survey.
Oh, yes. Okay, got a comment here. Somebody said you made a great point. The most successful Martech implementations have a strong internal champion, driving the use cases and elevating the value of the investment. I take it you agree with that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for putting it that way. Well done.
Okay, and somebody is predicting the future. My guess is that there will be an acceleration of Martech replacements this year and next year as companies evaluate the AI features of their current and new platforms. We got this far without talking about AI. How is that possible?
Right, Kim? Very good point. I'm amazed myself.
It is it's a real question, though, isn't it?
Absolutely.
If people are getting into AI, we might see a definite increase in the changes in the stack.
Absolutely. And we may also see some legacy players also bringing those features into their stack. So I think there is, how can I say, they're running, right? There's a competition there to see who is going to fill that space. And I think that companies may end up having a mix, a balance of what the legacy players are bringing to their systems that they have and what else they need that they can then add upon the existing stack.
And it's bringing to mind a whole set of questions we could field in next year's survey about, did you replace solution for a solution with better AI features, that kind of thing?
Exactly. We can have that as one of the choices so that we can bring more attention and go further into details. That's a good point.
Okay, got one more here. It's back to marketing automation. If it's the most replaced solution every year, which it has been for several years now, is it the same organizations continually replacing it because they're never satisfied with what they've got? Or is it just something that everyone eventually has had enough of?
Ooh, very good point. I would say that is a mix. I think we have both here, right? I think we have companies that are not satisfied or they're still trying to find their footing, right? And again, they may be over leveraging the technology instead of matching it with the processes as well, right? They may have this idea that, only if we had a better platform. But actually, even a better platform will still need to be matched with the processes and the business objectives with communication with the customer, etc. So I think we have both. How much of each? I'm not sure. What do you think, Kim?
I think I agree with you. It's a balance. So we have just one more. What are your thoughts on migrating from one major player in the Martech space to another major player in the space for cost-saving purposes without mandatory training and change management?
Ooh. Then I think it may raise questions, right? Will it deliver what is needed? Because yes, you can decrease cost, absolutely. But again, if you don't train the teams, if there's no ownership there, it's just like, okay, we replace one with the other, go figure it out. Maybe, yes, you pay less, but you don't get more out of the platform in any case. So it's still a missed opportunity, right, if that's the case.
Just got a comment came in here. AI agents will surely change usage. That's interesting.
Very good point on AI agents. Yes, because AI agents can also have a great impact on marketing operations, how we better use the tools, right? Because AI agents can go and, especially on the back end, they can do a lot of the checking and making sure that everything is at par and the nomenclature is okay and all the tagging is in place. All those little pieces, or that one piece of content moves from the writer to the editor automatically. So those things can really be transformed or greatly empowered by AI agents for sure.
We're at the beginning of a very interesting journey there, and I have a feeling this topic just opens up a whole bunch of other things we could talk about.
For sure.
But we are running out of time. So, Anna, I want to thank you very much, as I said, for the actionable advice and for your insights into the replacement survey. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. And I'd like to thank everyone in the audience for being here, because this is a wrap, not just on the replacement survey, but on the full Martech conference. Thank you all for joining us. Please do tell us how we did in the Rate the Session tab on the right of your screen. And remember, the entire program, both days of programming, sessions, keynotes, overtimes, demos, coffee talks, it'll all be available on demand through the links in the agenda, all the way until Monday, March 24th, 2025. So you can catch up on anything you missed or watch the same sessions 2 or 3 times, whatever is your pleasure. But that's all from us for now. Thanks again for joining us, and goodbye.